The Sonic Amateur Games Expo returns for its 23rd year, and while it's only a 7-day event, we take a bit longer to enjoy those fan games and indie games on this channel. Unlike last year, I plan on wrapping up before the end of October, though as you can tell, we've got a bit of catching up to do. We're going to start off with the games starring the blue blurb, but not all of them since there's a lot of entries. This video is going to showcase a few that caught my eye throughout the week. With that all said, let's take a look at some cool fan games. But before we do, here's a sponsor. 2023 is shaping up to be an amazing year with great releases, and for those interested in playing those releases without any compromises, I can help you with that. Thanks to today's sponsor, Apex Gaming PCs. With the world of PC gaming becoming more and more appealing with amazing graphics, controller options, and hidden gems, you'll need a machine that can get you the gaming experience you deserve with 3 configurations that we've come up with to give you the most out of your budget. They even have some familiar names. What's even cooler is being able to save up to $250 with your order by using code GottaBeFrank. If you're interested in upgrading your gaming experience, you can check them out with the link provided below. Again, a huge thank you to Apex Gaming PCs for sponsoring today's video. Speaking of, let's get to that video. Sonic Encore was one of the games I used to have issues trying to run, but that was with less capable hardware. Now I can play it in most of its glory. It's a 3D Sonic game that has 11 levels across 6 zones that are based on locations in the series: Emerald Hill, Angel Island, Ice Cap, Mystic Cave, Aqua Lake, and Oil Ocean. Though Aqua Lake did take me by surprise, as the rest of the zones are from Sonic 2 and 3, but this random 8-bit Sonic 2 zone is in here. It's pretty interesting. Anyways, it runs off the bumper engine, which is noticeable by how easy it is to fly over simple obstacles. Not a problem, I've played other bumper engine games that understand the possibilities and limitations, but will also design levels around it fairly well. This game does that, for the most part. The levels are massive, with many paths and possibilities for high-speed platforming action. Characters can all jump, spin dash, wall jump, and use the homing attack. They have a unique ability that differ from one to another, such as Ray's Super Mario World Flight, Knuckles' gliding, Sonic's drop dash, which is different from Mighty's drop dash because it's combined with a stomp. Emerald Hill will immediately expose a flaw with the gameplay, and that's the fact that if you don't know about the stomp, precision platforming is going to be impossible, since slowing down by holding back on the analog stick will cause the character to go for a really wide U-turn. Those of you who are used to Sonic games will need to make a mental note of that. Since it's possible to leap over obstacles, the levels themselves couldn't be the size of something from Adventure. The levels included are massive, which sounds great, but this also is a bit of a double-edged sword. With the size of the levels in the game, it becomes a little too easy for players to be turned around and undo the progress that they've made. Enemies in the games are incredibly aggressive, with enemies like the Motobug being on this character's ass as they chase the player constantly. Sure, they're easy to take care of, but this was worth bringing up. The Carltons from Mystic Cave, on the other hand, can get really annoying since there's no real signs that allow players to anticipate their attacks. Every single level is going to have a boss fight at the end of it, just like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and it's admirable to see these classic bosses translated into the third dimension. Not all of them make the transition gracefully, the Egg Scorcher being incredibly difficult and the Balance Master being a little too confusing at first. Aside from that, the bosses are alright and the game's fun. Some things did throw me off, like the plants and Ice Cap being hazards, but that's okay. Once you take damage, then you figure out, okay, don't touch that. The game looks really good. I don't really have any issues with the graphics of this game, though for minor complaints, Blaze and Knuckles' animations weren't working properly as I was playing as them, so it looks really goofy in the gameplay that you're seeing. Not only that, but Mystic Cave Act 1 does have moments of frame rate drops. Aside from that, Sonic Encore is pretty fun. There's just something exhilarating about blitzing through levels and utilizing the abilities of the available characters. If you have a compatible system that can play this, you should give it a shot. Now, Sage has never been a stranger to the occasional fan remake, but I don't think I've seen so many released in a given event, unless I'm not aware of it. So we're going to quickly look at a couple of them. Tails Adventure is one of the 2 Game Gear games where Tails is the main protagonist and takes matters into his own hands as he fights off an invading empire on Coca Island. Contrary to the high-speed gameplay of the other Sonic titles, Tails Adventure is a slower platforming Metroidvania where you go through the different sections taking out enemies with the Fox's arsenal to fend them off, to then take out the big bad of each area. Throughout the game you can pick up extra items to use, or you can pick up the Chaos Emeralds. It's not a game for me. I found it to be on the boring side when it comes to pacing. It doesn't really seem like a gameplay that leaps out to me as something that I must play. Now when it comes to the version posted for Sage, fans decided to take this game and remake it in 16:9 widescreen. The mechanics are an approximation of the original, with slight differences with the bomb throwing and other stuff like that. I played it before going into the original, and the widescreen presentation made it a bit easier to anticipate the next enemy. The most difficult part of the demo had to be this vertical section on Poly Mountain 1. It's not a game that's for me, but I know there's a lot of people that would get a kick out of it, so I had to show it off. The next two games are ones that I've seen and played before, so I have some experience with them. The 8-bit versions of Sonic 1 and 2 received fan remakes that take the Master System levels and give us a widescreen experience with them. Physics don't feel exact, but they feel good enough unless you're trying to stop yourself at points. They're not one-to-one with the originals, as they include original sections and extra playable characters with their own abilities, giving players some replay value, which is nice. Something else that will add value to the games are the inclusions of zones based on the 16-bit counterparts. This means Marble, Spring Yard, and Starlight zones are added to Sonic 1, and Oil Ocean is added to Sonic 2. I think the idea is neat, but I'm not exactly a fan of these levels in particular. If anything, it would have been nice to include a mode that has all of the zones of the original, and have an extra mode that brings in these ones as well. The games have multiple playable characters, give them unique abilities, and a new method of collecting the Chaos Emeralds. In the originals, you needed to pick them up in the second act of each zone, which was cryptic at times. In these games, you need to reach the stage with over 100 rings to play the bonus game from the 8-bit Sonic 1. The Emerald isn't too hard to find, but a few of them will throw you off a bit. And collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds will allow the character to turn super, and every character has a super form. For Sonic 1, that's about it. Sonic 2, on the other hand, goes a bit farther with the creative liberties by implementing this tag team mechanic throughout the game, with boss levels and special stages excluded. Some levels are redesigned better with this mechanic in mind, and I think it's alright. Again, I wish there was a classic mode and a new mode for this, but it is what it is. If you're into the 8-bit games, these are worth looking at. Just know that your experience won't be exactly how you remembered it. Although in Sonic 2's case, I think that's a good thing. This next game isn't a complete remake just like how the other two games were, but it does remake levels from 2 different games, those being Sonic Chaos and Sonic Triple Trouble. Sonic 3 Timelines is an attempt to recreate some of these zones, but with a brand new mechanic, this time switching between 3 different characters as opposed to the tag team mechanic in the Sonic 2 remake. It's technically 6 characters split into 2 teams with 1 speed, 1 power, and 1 flight character per team. First one being Sonic, Shadow, and Silver, while the other team consists of Amy, Blaze, and Rouge. It plays the same, though I think juggling 3 different characters does make it a bit cumbersome. Not only that, but learning about these walls that you can phase through is a bit of a beginner's trap. Once you complete a level, you'll be ranked on how well you did, which is good for that replay value. After that, you're sent to this animal section where you need to tend to their needs like feeding them, place them in a different environment, or pairing them with one another. I think that only ever happened once. You're on a time limit, and I have no idea what it actually accomplishes. You can also get into a different kind of stage, which I actually managed to do, and it's to get the Time Stone, and to do this, you need to go through a Sega Master System game. I believe this is an Alex Kidd game, but I don't know which one. Which I think is interesting, but now you're adding another experience on top of this one, which is also making you juggle 3 different characters to get to different areas. So if that sounds like something right up your alley, go for it. Me personally, not a fan. At least their abilities are really cool. This is a short one, but anybody remember Sonic before the sequel? Remember that one time I tried to Let's Play it, but the last few parts were delayed because of a glitchy air bubble? Well, a team has come together to remake this fan-favorite fan game with new mechanics, restored cutscenes, RIP Flash Player, and it plays pretty close to the original, from what I can tell. Then again, I believe it uses a similar framework or engine that the original one used, which means my least favorite thing: incompatibility issues. This is something I've had to put up with for a few games this year, but it stems from using an Xbox Series controller while playing it, so I had to dust off the old 360 controller to play this one. Since I'm pretty late to this video, that issue has been resolved through a patch. So now I can plug in my Xbox Series controller and everything works just fine. You can even see everything in its full speed, it's great! So big thumbs up for that one. And with that said, it's fine. It's Sonic before the sequel. Not So Simple Sonic Worlds has a decent feel when it comes to the gameplay, so I never have much of an issue with it. It is nice seeing the game in widescreen, which shows off more of this gorgeous sprite work, but I have a nitpick with the cutscenes. Honestly, it'd be nice to see them remade for this widescreen presentation, though I could see how that could be a problem. Again, it's just a nitpick. Give this one a shot if you haven't. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, and it makes me want to play the original again. Sonic Colors is one of those games I can tolerate. It's far from my preferred game in the series, but I can see why people like it. Sonic Colors Demastered takes the levels from the original and makes it 2D, as Sonic should be. I'm only joking. Sonic Colors is mostly 2D anyways. This fan game starts off by getting you adjusted to it by giving you the boost, then the wisp of the available area, like in the original. You'll also get the story from Colors in text form, Sonic battle sprites included. It controls pretty well, though I wish the levels didn't feel like boost to win. I mean, yeah, you don't get a lot out of just boosting. You'll have to go out of your way to go to other routes to get the highest rank possible, or get all of the red rings for unlockables. But it really feels like that's what I'm doing most of the time. The unlockables is a good inclusion. You can change the boost, the jumps, some other attributes, and you can even turn supersonic in this demo. You get these by spending rings, which is why there's an incentive to actually collect them. Visually, it looks nice. I think most of the assets come from the DS game, but I could be wrong about that. It definitely does look like the DS game with some Sonic Advance sprites on it, but it looks good. You get access to Tropical Resort and Starlight Carnival, so you get a bit of visual variety. It's not going to be one-to-one with the 2D of the original, but it feels pretty good to control. I'd say this one's worth trying out because I know there are plenty of you out there who are better at the boost gameplay than I am and would get a kick out of this, so there you go. This is a game that I've wanted to talk about for a very long time, and I feel like it would be a disservice to not mention it this year, even though I did that last year, but that's besides the point. Sonic Triple Trouble is probably one of the best fan games I have ever played. It's like the AN2R of 2D Sonic games where a hidden gem is remade by a passionate developer in a different style who decides to go above and beyond with the extras. Widescreen support, different modes, new characters, and probably some of the best controls for a fan game ever. It feels like a true sequel to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and if you haven't played it yet, feel free to try it out. I want to say so much more about it, but if I do, it's going to be a full-length video because there's just so much to praise here. I'll tell you this, when I'm ready to get into a Sonic game marathon and I want to start reviewing those games, I will be sure to include this in it. It's not official, but I want to give this fan game the proper attention it deserves, and a couple of others. I was literally grinning ear to ear as I was playing it because this thing is so much fun to play. And here's the thing, if you're on Android, don't worry, you're not left out because there's an Android version that you can play and it plays pretty well. Sure, it's not as much fun to play something that would be better with a controller on a touchscreen, but I mean hell, look at the Sonic 1, 2, and CD remasters on iOS and Android. This game is probably on par with that when it comes to controls. Anyways, the reason I bring up the Sage 2023 release is because Amy Rose finally takes her rightful place as a playable character with 3 movesets. Those being from Sonic 3 Air, Sonic Origins, and Sonic Superstars. They give her different ways to approach the levels, so if you want an idea how she's going to play in something like Sonic Superstars, here you go. Or if you want to see how she plays in Sonic Origins because you might not have the DLC yet, that's perfect. And if you prefer that she controls like she did in Sonic 3 Air, again, you have a lot to work with here and it's wonderful. I know I recommend the games that I show off, but this is a must-play for Sonic fans. If you like the series, whether you like the 2D or the 3D games, this one is a must-play for you. Also, support the official release. Now that we have all of that out of the way, let's get into some more original titles. This one took me by surprise, but Sonic Test Labs is a pretty sweet game. It's a 3D fan game that gives an interesting-looking Sonic 2 levels to play through, one being more like Sonic Adventure 2, but not because of the vaguely similar setting or the GUN robots with their Mobile Suit Gundam shields. I'm saying that because it gives you a few ways to approach a level. Also, you're on an oil rig. You can jump, spin dash, homing attack, and grind to your heart's content. When you do grind or go for the homing attack, you'll be able to perform tricks as well. This is where I wish the animation for it was a bit faster or there was less incentive to spam it, because it is a possibility and spamming it makes it look like you're being juggled in a fighting game. It's a little weird to control and some enemies have pinpoint accuracy, but aside from that, there's a lot of potential here. The second level is a chase sequence that leads down a straight line, but the focus of it is split-second action. It's my least favorite of the two because of some of the jank and the loose maneuvering of the pipe near the end, but it's still fine enough. It feels more like a spectacle level rather than what Spoiled Rig Zone was trying to achieve. I see potential with this one, and the more cartoony looking Sonic is a nice change. I love the squash and stretch when you're jumping, it's pretty cool. There are some other characters, though I'm not sure if they're coming out soon or not. Anyways, I look forward to seeing more from this team, and you should definitely try this one out. And it's got some kick-ass music behind it as well, so there you go. Sonic Spectre is another work-in-progress fan game that also has cutscenes integrated. Well, sort of. We'll get to that in a bit. It also runs on the not-so-simple Sonic Worlds framework, so it plays well when there's no compatibility issues. Though the level design is run a bit mixed. In zones like Waterfall Capital and Subaquatic Speedway, there were too many areas where you're constantly stopped by walls. It's not that I want it to be automated or something, but it seems like it's really killing the flow of the game, with the whole stop and go happening a little too frequently from my liking. The rest of the game is pretty good, and the boss fights are actually really well executed, though there is a bit of jank trying to get to the springs in the first boss. Trying to jump on moving enemies in an auto-scroller doesn't play too well with this engine from what I've noticed. But aside from that, everything else is pretty creative. I do like how you have to approach them in the ways that you do, so it's been a blast trying to play those. And for the audio, there are 2 versions of the game, one of them being stream-friendly, so if you ever decide to stream it, you won't get any copyright claim issues, and another one with what I'm assuming is the intended soundtrack for it. And that music it's fine. It gets the job done. As I mentioned earlier, there are cutscenes, but I'm being pretty generous about this. They're more like images that fade from one to another. It would be nice to see them animated in the future, but this is all we have to go off of for now. Aside from that, and the fact that I managed to soft lock the game at this point, I had a good time playing it. This was one of the first games that I had to try out. Sonic Horizons is a 3D game that plays in a similar way to Sonic Frontiers, an open zone area with portals that require items to unlock, while having difficult trials across this massive area. It includes voice acting, and I would say it's fine. It gets the job done, and it's not an impression, so thumbs up. Though Sonic is the only character speaking, and you don't get enough lines to understand what the possible range could be with the voice actor. But again, it's fine. You can double jump, spin dash, stomp, homing attack, air dash, and use the bounce to navigate the hub areas and the levels. The only real problem is that it's impossible to slow down to stop from falling off a platform. This made it harder to get the outrageous number of crystals needed for one level, but after completing it, you'll be in areas where you'll have to really know how to use the wall run, and it's really jank. Like, it needs a bit more testing to get it down right because I found myself falling off of it constantly. Aside from those, Sonic controls fine. There's plenty to work with his moveset to get through the 2 levels, though I preferred the first one. It's a 3D level that looks like it came out of a setting from Gameland from Sonic Colors. It allows you to make use of every move that you have possible, and I think it's pretty cool. It actually has a tough S-rank requirement that I couldn't get while recording it, but somehow managed to get it while streaming. I get the freaking S-rank on a stream, okay. Sometimes my luck is either really good or really bad with no in between. The second level is mostly 2D, and it was really weird to control, so I'm not a big fan of it. The trials on the island were also a mixed bag, as some required going from one point to another at the right speed. It's just super bizarre. I didn't really like these very much. Anyways, the first level gives me hope for this fan game because it was pretty good. It needs a few tweaks to the gameplay, but there's a lot going on here that I can get behind. I'd say try this out if you can. Though this does require a bit of a powerful machine to run at an acceptable frame rate, and don't worry if you can't get the constant 60. That's normal at this point. I would have loved to have seen a daytime version of this like the one shown in the trailer, but whatever. Anyways, give Sonic Horizons a chance if you're able to. Now this is one where I have a hard time recommending it because it's clearly busted, but I wanted to finish the showcase on this. Sonic Unleashed Plus is an attempt at a fan remake of Sonic Unleashed, since fans have been desperately wanting a PC port of it. I don't think that's the intention the devs had behind it, but it is easy to notice how much people really want a PC port of this game. Sure, the Unleashed project is nice, but there are limits that come with that Sonic Generations mod. This fan game runs on the Dash engine framework and includes this intro cutscene, a very basic menu, 2 hub areas with no NPCs, and 3 levels. The 2 Windmill Isle levels are fine, but the level in Holoska is where the game really starts to show its flaws. It's mostly this bobsledding section, which really affects the progress that a player can make because sometimes you'll just end up dying constantly. And I can hear what you're saying. If it's really jank, why talk about it? Why bring it up? That's an easy question. I see a project that fans would love to see completed, or at least get really far in. If we've seen the absolute passion put into Sonic P06, I hope we can see another project like that, and I'd really like it to be this one. Whether it's the next big Sonic fan project or not will take some time to see, but to Team Hero Studios, I will say this. If you plan on continuing this project, you have a long road ahead of you, but I wish you the best of luck with it. I'm not a fan of Sonic Unleashed personally, but I know a faithful recreation of it would be really cool to see for the fans of that game. I apologize if it seems like I'm putting unnecessary pressure on you, but I just want to wish you the best of luck on this endeavor. Hopefully we can see more from it in the future. And that'll just about do it for Sonic fan games that I got to play this year. I did play more than what was shown in this video, but it started getting to a point where I didn't have much to say aside from it was fun. There's a ton of fan content to enjoy for Sage 2023, and I urge you to try out some of those games if you haven't already. Links to every game that I've shown today will be in the description, and if there's some fan games that are worth playing, let me know. I do have to move on to the next video, but who knows, I might stream some of the games that I didn't take a look at. I don't know, I'm rebuilding my Twitch channel, it might happen one day. And I think that'll just about do it. Hey everyone, thank you so much for checking out today's fan game showcase. I know it's a bit late, I'm sorry about that. If you liked the video, feel free to like or sub if you're new. You can also comment down below. I'd like to know what games you played and which ones you recommend that I try out. Just to give you a bit of a heads up, I'm planning to stream again on my Twitch page. That's twitch.tv/GottaBeFrank. Just remove the E because someone else took it. And I plan on doing things such as randomizer speedruns, the occasional playthrough, and I could do fan game showcases, so who knows, I might go and play it there. So that will be the plan that I have. At this time, I want to thank the supporters of this channel. They are the channel members and patrons supporting this channel with a monthly contribution. The Chaos Tier supporters have their names scrolling across the screen, and the Super Tier supporters get a verbal shoutout. They are Martin YT Plays and Jimmy Duke STR. Thank you all for your extra support, it is greatly appreciated, you are all awesome. If you want to support the channel as well, you can do so with the join button or the Patreon link at patreon.com/gottabefrank, that'll be in the description. Lowest tier is $1, though there is no pressure, and I thank you all for your extra support if you do plan on doing so. Aside from that, I want to thank you all so much for watching, I hope you all have a wonderful and safe day, and until next time, take care.